There we go. I'm in. Hello.
Okay, there we go. Oh, well, good evening, good morning, good day to whoever might log in and listen to this. Whenever we're running a little late tonight because I had some drama happen on the ranch at feeding time tonight. One of the piglets had gotten out and he didn't know, he couldn't remember where he got out at. So I come out to feed and the host of dogs is with me and he starts screaming bloody murder and like pigs, only like pigs can do. And he's so frantic to get in. Our part of our pig fencing is pallets. So he pile drove himself into the space between the boards and the pallet, and that's where he got stuck, right there. And he's screaming up a storm, and I'm trying to help him, and he's backing up and yanking. I mean, he pulled so hard, he pulled the wiring he took, because the pallet was wired to the fence, and he pulled that pallet off and knocked me in the head with it. And he's screaming such bloody murder that the mama's on the inside. So I have 400 or 500 pound pigs ramming the fence, trying to get through the fence to see what's going on with the screaming. So I finally I got the food over the fence to them, got them busy, but every time he screamed, the 3 of the 500 pound mamas would come back, right? And so finally I had to call a friend and say, I need to borrow your 22. That's the only option, was to put a bullet in his head. So that's what I did.
Bad.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he wasn't coming out of there.
Funny thing. Uh-oh.
No, he couldn't get out, and he was so frantic. You know, when I have a goat that likes to stick his head through, we have cattle panels, and his horns aren't quite long enough to keep him from sticking his head through, but then he can't get it back through. And if I pinch his nostrils shut so he can't get a breath, that settles him down, right? Then he realizes that I hold the power of life and death in my hands for him, and if he wants out, he better start cooperating with me. That didn't work with the piglet. I tried that. Didn't work. Just made him more frantic, and the more frantic he got, the more stuck he got.
So, it was a small pig or a big one?
Yeah, 80 pounds.
Oh wow.
50 to 80 pounds.
No, that's not that small. Wow.
No.
I guess he chose his way.
I guess so. Anyway, so then I still had all this other feeding to do, and I still haven't fed the ducks, but they can be fine tonight. They don't need to be fed. So anyway,
that's fun. You know, I was thinking about how entertaining that would be, and how helpful entertainment would be to, you know, you just catch people's attention to this, to our channel and to our work. And farm stories, those are so fun. I mean, you can have a whole like reality show happening and it would be just so fun, and people would just really know about it and like
yeah,
even
like
even if it gets that hardcore. It gets pretty hardcore, huh?
yeah.
Well,
today I'm on
I just had a dream, you know, this morning I had a dream about me helping you with I was like tempted to, I mean, I was just going through what you told me about and me thinking about the situation where you choose to harvest one of your animals, one of your farm animals. You're not just growing them. The time comes when you have to do the dirty work. You have to do the killing, right? And how that's, you know, there's an engineer's, a spiritual engineer's situation right there. You know, that's a respectable situation, quite a lot for me. You know, somebody facing that and saying, okay, what's going to happen? and doing it. So I had the dream, because I've thought about it, of because actually, by the way, I'm actually shopping now for I'm going to try and have this workshop with other people, with dancers, ASIC dancers, and we're going to use we have to buy leather, right? We use leather to make shoes, to make dancing shoes, and so I'm actually shopping for leather right now, looking at the prices. And so I guess that all that came together with the dream, and I dreamt of me helping you with taking out a bowl and doing the butchering and all that, and how that's actually something you never really think about. You never really want to think about, right? But it's such a, to me, it's such a marker of true independence and of true bravery and of true wanting to take autonomy and sovereignty, right, head on. So it's, to me, just the most respectable situation you could think of. I guess that's why I had a dream with it. I wanted to help out, and so that's amazing. Wow, the pigs, and yeah, wow. So I guess that's all relevant to today's subject. We haven't even introduced it yet to today's conversation. Let me do the introduction, I guess. We are doing the second part of the untangling from the matrix, but from habits, from our habit, which are
from our neural net that drives the show.
And last time, Ingrid, you presented something you prepared, and it's one of the things I'm actually I have as a list that I will be studying coming up, in this coming days. I really want to go over that precise video we recorded the last time we went live, the first part of this 2-part series of Untangling. And to me, it was just such a good composition of words and of facts, and wow, I was just amazed. Okay, it's just you're doing such a good job at untangling and of explaining, and you do a great job at presenting and gathering information. I think that people really should pay attention to this, and I want to replicate it. I want to help in that sense, in replicating this information. And so what would the second part entail? What do you think the second part of this takes us to?
Well, we're going to have to talk more about the so last week I talked about the 88 peptides and how, it took 9,000 years ago they knew about 81 and 81 stories in the Korean Shunbung. So let's back up a little bit. So there are four elements that make, and I believe there's a fifth, that make all the amino acids that make proteins, and the amino acids assemble themselves in 4-letter blocks. And I believe there's a fifth. We need to get to the fifth. But there's 64 recipes for how the amino acids can assemble themselves to make proteins. And this is how a receptor is made, right? So there's 64 recipes for making all the proteins plus all the receptors in our bodies. Now, you have the peptides, which are your neurotransmitters, your steroids, your sex hormones. And in 1997, they had discovered 88 of them. Well, their words, every single word we say, or every thought we think, starts this process of
triggers it.
this chemical cascade, right? And as the chemical cascade starts, our brain circuits, our body nerve circuits fire in corresponding sequences, patterns, and combinations. So that produces then a level of mind equal to our thoughts. And once the neurons that start firing together, and they consistently fire together, they get wired together. So if you were to go into a ceiling light and try to unwire a light that's been hooked together for 30 years, it's going to be all corroded, and it's all stuck together, and you have to cut the connections, because right, and that's basically how it works in our body too, because our neurons are electrical conductors. So once the neurons that can continuously fire together, that are these social neurons that are looking for another neuron having the same chemical experience, and they fire together and they get wired together, that's it. That's the circuit, right? It only flows in that circuit. And so then it requires the same chemical constantly to keep that circuit flowing. So then we begin to feel the way we're thinking, right? So we've made enough depression hormone. So we feel depressed. So we think we're depressed. So then we begin to feel depressed. And then we begin to think, again, the more that the way we're feeling. And so we're creating more and more depression or suffering. And so then when the body and mind are in union like this, the end product is called a state of being. So depression is not a sickness, it's a state of being. Right. Anxiety, the same thing, everything.
Right. So it's not just, we're not just bound by the physical. We do actually exist as sentient beings. As
absolutely.
Living, which is,
yeah.
Satanism is about. I was kind of just listening to, bringing this down to atheism and to mechanicism and to there's no way your mind really changes things, right? Your mind's just out there. What's real is what's going on chemically and physically, and it's the other way around. It's the mind that's making up all the physical, and it's and that goes for the biology, from how our cells are listening to our minds through this peptides, through this code of chemicals, which is not simple. It's right. It's quite complex. It's quite profound. It's quite vast. And not anyone really is willing to go into this study. I mean, it's really a vast world that very few people really have the willingness to comprehend, or to try to study, or to try to go into. And you're doing so. So there's so much to reveal here. So please keep going.
So a state of being means that we have become familiar with a mental emotional state, a way of thinking, a way of feeling, which has become an integral part of our self-identity. And so we describe who we are by how we are thinking and feeling. So I am angry, I am suffering, I am inspired, I am insecure, I am negative, I am thirsty, I am hungry, right? I've been catching myself constantly every day, instead of saying I'm hungry, I am feeling hungry.
Right.
Because my state of being is not hungry. That's not my identity, but I'm feeling hungry. I'm feeling thirsty.
Yeah.
So if we can't start thinking greater than how we feel, we won't ever change, because to change is to think greater than we feel. So if we can't ever decide to make the choice, and this is what sets us apart from the animals, we human beings have the ability, because we have a neocortex, we have the ability to make the choice to start feeling happy out of our depressive states or out of our anger states.
Right.
And the moment
to think beyond the physical obvious limitations, beyond the emotional state of awareness, you know, like mammal, animal, like, and to become, that's the way I teach it in my cosmology, is the vertical consciousness, the spiritual connection.
Well, by the same token, we also don't allow ourselves to feel like, so, okay, so let's go back to the pigs. When they're eating and they're being retarded when they eat, they're always retarded when they eat. They always come from this state of lack. So if there's not enough for me, so you got to get out of my food, you're in my way. And Ellie Mae will bite one of the little ones, and the little one to get the little one out of the way, or Humphrey, our boar, our 900-pound boar, will bite Ellie Mae, who's 400 pounds, to get her out of the way, and she screams bloody murder because it hurts. But it's gone just like that. 5 seconds later, they're best friends and they're eating together again, right? Mm-hmm. And so this is how it works in our body. These neurotransmitters, these peptides, these stories, because the peptides are informational substances. So that's why I said last week, there in 1997, they had discovered 88 peptides or 88 stories. But 9,000 years ago, the Koreans already knew, Korean spirituality already knew of 81. And we think we're so evolved because we have science. But
yeah, that's becoming obvious ever more, I think. The fact that it's a big lie that we are at the verge of technology and advancement. No, that's false. Anywhere
yeah. Yeah, but so these stories, these chemicals of emotion, they want to be metabolized out, and that's what happens in the pigs. They get metabolized just like that. They don't carry grudges, right? If I beat them enough, they shy away from me when I come. When I've gone after them enough with a stick, they shy away. They see me coming, walking towards them, and they're like, whoa, but they don't come after me going, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you. They're just like, oh no, don't beat me again. And that's only because maybe it's been repeated 10 times in a couple of days. If I like today, I had to beat the 400-pound mamas off so they wouldn't break the fence. Tomorrow, they won't even remember that I beat them off, right? If I go in there, they'll still want their belly rubs. And that's not how we humans work. We hang on to these molecules of emotion, these feelings, because we deny them. We hang on to them, which is amazing. So we deny them, but we hang on to them. And so they become toxic emotions and become stuck in our bodies.
Right. Until you process them, it stays there waiting in queue. When are you going to process me? Right. And you must allow yourself to feel it and to go through and not just the emotion, the action that may result as effect of the emotion.
Yeah. Well, the reaction. Yeah. The reaction instead of the response.
Yeah.
So, but the moment we begin to feel the way we think, we begin to think the way we feel. And so now, in effect, our feelings are controlling our thinking, and our body is driving our mind. So as the cycle go on, so let's look at, let's take a story. Let's take an example of, say, you're driving to work in the morning, and you begin to think about an argument you had with a coworker a few days ago. So as you start thinking the thoughts that you had with that person in that particular experience, you're going to the past, right? You're thinking in the past. And so your body starts to release the same chemicals that you had experienced in the past on that day. And so those same neurons find each other and they fire together, right? And so now your body sends a message to your brain that says, I'm ticked off, make more ticked off hormone to keep me ticked off, right?
Yeah.
To keep me angry. So as the cycle goes on, if we don't choose to walk away or to say to ourselves, stop, our angry thoughts produce more and more chemical signals, angry signals, to make more and more of the adrenal anger chemicals associated with the angry feelings. And so now we become enraged, and then we move on to aggression, and we might feel flushed, and our stomach is twisted into a knot, and our head pounds, and our muscles start to clench, and you know, now we're in the survival mode. Now we're in the reptilian brain, fight or flight.
Yeah.
And this all happens on the drive before you even get to work. So you've set yourself up to have the same reaction, to live the same experience from days ago. And this is how we live our lives. This is why Don Miguel Ruiz says in the Four Agreements, don't take anything personal. And when I first read that book, I was like, well, how do I not take anything my husband says personal? Well, it comes down to the choice to say, I'm not going to suffer about it. And B, I can't take it personal because he has 50 years of his own programming, and that's what his statement came from. So how can I be pissed about his programming when my programming is different than his? That's how you not take anything personal. And if we set ourselves up going, well,
I think you can be pissed and not take it personal. But you can be pissed.
You can be pissed and let it pass, right?
Right.
You don't have to hang on to it, but that's what we do. That's where we're different than the animals, is we hang on to our pissed offness. We hang on to our depression. And we don't realize that the more it's a pendulum. So the more pissed off we get, the lower we get, the higher we'll swing, and the higher we swing, the lower the pendulum will come again, right? This is where manic depression sets in.
Right. You know, that's one of the things I observed. Initially contacted people in the Amazon being very differently from everybody else, is where they will actually, and there's videos recorded of this, where they will have a reaction to a friend that they haven't seen for a long time, that's coming back to see them, the people that are coming with the cameras, and you know, having a very strong show of the love and the emotion felt by seeing that person again, right? So you see them react really powerfully to that emotion, but 3, 4, 5 seconds later, it's gone. I mean, it's like it's back to where it was. You know, it's almost like indifferent from him being there. It's really amazing. It's a body language you've never seen. It's this ability to which they've had that privilege of being able to not grow, you know, under the system, the oppressive system. So they've been free, and they have this free flow of emotions where they'll feel really strongly about something, and a few seconds later it's gone, just like the pigs. Right.
Yeah, well, that's how it's meant to work in us too, even though we have a neocortex.
I mean, we have that ability, and we can be conscious, and they're conscious of it. It's not that they're not conscious of that. They are conscious of it, and obviously it's a huge superpower. It's a superpower to really be feel something, but sometimes get over the feeling right away.
Well, and by the same token, because they live in villages, it's the same with we talked about that ancient Tibet, the Tibetan village up in the Ladakis, the author related how her TV crew wasn't getting along with the family they were staying with, and that's who they'd been arranged to stay with. And so they went to the village elder and said, can we stay with you? And he looked at them and said, I have to live with him. Right? When you leave, I have to live with him. So no, I'm not going to accommodate you and create turbulence between us because I have to live with him. And this is the thing we Westerners don't realize in our cities and our isolation is we never consider that we have to live with someone. We just behave like we want and then go home to our houses, right? Hide behind our doors.
Right. Yeah, that's.
And so when you realize you have to live with more than your tiny little circle, then you have to start making the choice to let these emotions bubble and be as fleeting as a soap bubble, or when you blow bubbles with your kids, that's how feelings are supposed to arise. And
someone's got to be the adult and get over things and get it flowing and look for the better, which is it requires detachment. It requires being able to. It requires sacrifice, right? Okay, I'll let go of this privilege so that we can be in peace.
Yeah, well, and last year I picked up some milk from the food bank. It was just 3 months after I'd gotten my new truck, and I picked up milk from the food bank for the pigs. And there's this building alongside the food bank where they do they get all this horse tack and they put it together and send it out. I'm not really sure what all they do. Anyway, I was watching them. They had their doors open. They were busy. And I was watching the guy over there while the food bank was loading this tall stack of milk crates in my truck. I get in and I notice that everything's I look around, I back up and I go to pull out, and all of a sudden this movement of a vehicle backing up towards me catches my attention. So I step on my brakes so he won't hit me. And that was enough a momentum that it tipped the milk forward, and that had already happened before. And so my window shattered.
Wow.
My back window shattered. So I come home with, we got it all fixed up. I come home and I'm telling the story. I called someone and I told the story, and I told the story to Alexis, and I told the story to someone else, and I was going to tell the story again. And that's when I said to myself, I'm not going to give myself PTSD about this. It's done. I've told the story enough. I'm not going to continue living. So at that moment, I made the choice to not have this circuit wire, these neurons fire together, and get wired together, and it was done, over with. But that was an absolute conscious choice that I made. I'm not going to tell this story anymore because it's a story of suffering.
You can change the script. You're not bound by the script that you like to follow. You can choose another.
Yeah.
Another way.
And as soon as I did that, Julian, all that fight or flight, those emotions just let go. They metabolized out. And it was just so much of a better choice than I've ever made before. I like to suffer. We all love to suffer, right? Because it makes people feel sorry for us, and it gives us attention.
Yeah. So that takes time and hunting down yourself and hunting and being on the lookout
because it's a habit. you know, it's become a habit. When our body remembers better than our conscious mind, that means the body is the mind, and that's a habit, you know. So it takes it takes, like you said, Jaguar medicine, stocking your own tangles, your own soldered
Yourself,
together
your own
neurons.
reaction, your own thoughts, really trying to see yourself from another perspective and analyze yourself and see, do I like what I'm seeing? Do I like this guy reacting this way and saying what he's saying? Maybe I can change that a little bit. It's not easy.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
But it can be done, and that's a big part of what the Toltecs teach, and Don Miguel Ruiz, like you say, is one of those people that brought it into books, and there's a little bit of knowledge in those books to get there. And so, wow, yeah, that's how the wiring takes us. But let me talk about the broad spectrum of how this wiring, you know, that's a focus thing, right? That's a punctual thing. But then in the broad.
But by the time we're 35, Julian, most of us, 99% of us, are operating out of totally a subconscious state. Our body's driving the show because our habits. This is the broad spectrum. By the time we're 35, we're not making any conscious choices.
Right. And
let that sink in. By the time you're 35, you're not making any conscious choices anymore. Yeah. Your body's driving the show.
Wow. Yeah. So how do we get out of it? How do we? What do I tell somebody to get out of that? It's a lot of work, and yet there's this, like you say, a choice, a moment where it's not a lot of work. It's, you can just also choose to somehow listen to this message, to somehow find this message in your own path, and make the choice of becoming aware of your habits and your behavior and your way of thinking. Obviously, getting other information is crucial. Studying, finding, and obviously this, as you know, the farthest away you can get from mainstream and from the academy, the better, right? And
but then it's reprogramming. It's not just education, it's reprogramming ourselves from the beliefs that have been shoved down our throats since the day by our parents, since the day we were born into this world. We have to go back that far and realize that we were programmed with their beliefs, and their beliefs are now our beliefs. So we have to start going into this, into everything, and going, what is it I believe, instead of just not having enough interest, not paying enough interest to use words and toss them about. Like one of the cliche words. Let's talk about a couple of these cliche words. Christ consciousness, right? Ascension. That's the spiritual, in the spiritual community, the New Age spiritual community. Those are the two cliche words that $1 million buzzwords in the Matrix. What's the $1 million buzzword? Sustainability, right? And we toss these words about because we don't pay enough interest into what is it they're trying to sustain. Why am I on this bandwagon? Why am I speaking this cliche word? We just do it because that's how
we don't realize.
So
we're just repeating information. How once you start this entangling, I mean, I went into last night into watching this news program from Argentina Argentinians, with the punctual observation and stalking of how the media is, its purpose is not just information, but shaping public opinion, and how we are, you know, I compare that to people I know, to years of living with people, and how much this news, whatever it is, service, media, product, is part of our own thinking, and we really don't, many people don't really go far beyond that. Many people just have that, thinking they pick up from the media, right? I mean, it's a big source of behavior. I mean, there must be a lot of behavioral, subconscious kind of psychological programming going on in the through the media, and if we're not able to, stop dosing on that, stop taking that drug, right, and being able to just spot it as it is, like, wow, that's a big manipulation of facts. That's a big the manufacturing of false evidence, right, which is done by the media. Then I'm not taking that drug. Then I'm not falling into that thought. That I think that's a big. I mean, if you're not able to sort that, if you're not able to avoid that drug of, if you're believing the media's at this point in time, 2022, I mean, if you just take everything as they say it in any regular mainstream news service, it's I mean, this conversation is useless. That's one of the things. But then there's so much more, right? There's so much more. There's so much work to do, Ingrid. And I was going to say, you gotta facilitate that, and you gotta take the I know you do that, and then I know you don't sell that, and that's a thing which will seem strange to anyone listening to this. Is it's so awesome for me. We are not selling anything, right? We are actually not in the Manai religion, where everything is going through that transaction, where the main purpose of whatever you're doing is selling, getting the money from the other person. Yeah. That's so amazing. So that gives us the freedom to speak freely, and I thank that a lot. But that also gives the responsibility of the other person, and that also requires whoever's listening to actually be an intelligent being and understand that we are not going to manufacture this and ease it down, and there is no step-by-step method of liberation. There's no voting into liberation. There's no buying liberation. You can't just buy. We're not offering a product. You can't just buy our product because we're not a product. And that's it, right? We figured it all out. We have it all written down. You just got to go step by step. That doesn't exist. And that means whoever's listening to this has got to become alive and come forward and reach out and speak as a human being. Hey, what's up? What are you guys doing? What can we do? How can I join this, right? Because that's the difficult part. Realizing that that freedom forces us into coming together. That's the way. I mean, that's how we humans have actually solved great feats in history, is by cooperation, is by coming together, right? It's not through an individualistic system of I get my pay and through my pay I do everything. It actually requires stepping out of that. And that's a difficult thing. That's a difficult thing, but that's what we are speaking about essentially. And that's where this untangling should take you if you dare to begin this process of hunting your habit.
Yeah, and focusing on well-being and good feeling thoughts, because the more good feeling thoughts and the more good feeling words we speak, the more we allow the cells of our body to live in the utopia that they are actually able to live in.
You got a call.
So there's Alexis, my kiddo calling from Montana.
Oh wow. Oh, she's gone already.
So,
oh wow.
Oh yeah, she left last Thursday.
So is there anything else from your research that you want to leave? Should we get this closing down? Are we on time? What do you think?
Yeah. I think it's the most, it's stocking our belief systems, what our suffering, how much we like to suffer. So because if we continue to relive experiences over and over again, we're creating the same chemical and living in the past. This is why Ramtha, the files I sent you, said in there, you don't think of an elevated emotion. This is what all spiritual gurus teach, is you've got to think a elevated emotion to manifest something. You can't. How do you know what the emotion of the future is? If you start trying to manifest and expand your life by thinking of a emotion, by trying to bring an emotion, then you're just going to continue recreating the past, because all we know is the past.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So let's allow more space for not knowing and for uncertainty. Does that translate into that?
Yeah. And I mean, and stop living by your habits and going, I always do this. And I know everything there is to know. Because I have a PhD, or I have a bachelor's degree, or I even have a college degree, or I've been traveling the spiritual path for 15 years, so I know everything there is to know. No, when you take on the belief that everything you've learned and know is inaccurate and incomplete, all of a sudden you're open.
Right.
You're open.
I was thinking of my kids. And how, because I was going over the subject of the habits, obviously, through these last last days, and a good example for me was my kids, where as kids they are more open to whatever experience might come the next day, and are not so strongly attached to whatever routine is to be followed, whatever habit, routine. I mean, you can just shift everything and they'll be kind of all right. You can just feed them at another time. You can, have fun at another time. And they're not complaining about, oh, they're not complaining it's past my bedtime. They're not complaining. Sometimes we force them too much into strict habits, and
absolutely we do. Yeah, we ruin their innocence, and that's what it means to become innocent and that, like a child, and that doesn't it just means without experience, right? Because if you're experienced, then you're living in the past and you have no way to experience anything new.
Yeah, and so now I'm taking the lesson again, and I'm challenging even more my own habits, my own, oh, I want to do this at this time every day. I want to stick to this routine, right? And try to be more open. And it doesn't, and my, my spirit doesn't allow me to get too routinely. There's always surprises, changes. I'm always stalking myself in that. And with the example of the kids, and of sharing this experience and this untangling with you, well, then it's very, very much complete and very much profound. And I really hope that people can join into this untangling path and get butchering. Get butchering. Come back to that's one of the I don't want to get it's a lengthy story to talk about the spirituality behind killing, or I mean this part of life of being autonomous, and this whole, when we speak, I wanted to mention, when we talk about the neural paths and the wiring, I've been very observant on the nutrients and how that they play a role in the plasticity, how we can, when we're having different experiences and trying to create new neural pathways. I'm always doing that myself, from learning languages, from learning new songs, from learning new things, new skills. And I notice how important the nutrients are, right? And I can totally see how veganism takes a great strength in this exercise. It takes a great strength away from the exercise of wanting to create new neural pathways, of wanting to wire your brain differently, right? And have different experiences. I've seen how vegetarianism or veganism can really force you into very habit-like, if you're not in your exact routine, like natural, healthy routine, you get a little bit away from that. It's really challenging. They get really irritated. People that are, in that scheme of being vegans. I do actually notice it, how they are more irritated, and how having a complete diet helps in doing this rewiring and changing the wiring, and trying to think differently, and trying to, for example, if you want to bodybuild, I don't know, get stronger, it's also a mental thing. It's also the mental thing of how much tiring, how much non-comfort you're willing to sustain, to how much pain, whatever, getting tired from this exercise, which is, in a way, just as the brain interprets it, it's uncomfortable, it's pain, right? And there's a strength that you develop, a necessary strength you develop for that, and the system is so good at not cultivating the habit of becoming strong and being mentally strong and resilient to pain, to uncomfort, to work, and to so many other things.
So actually, really, when you start researching, diet really has very little to do with it, because Viktor Frankl was in concentration camp and chose to not let, he was in Auschwitz and chose to not let the guards take his positive attitude and his creating new neural nets away from him. Also, you don't have to go work out to develop muscles. They've done enough tests where they had people think about working out for 20 minutes, and somebody else went to work out for 20 minutes, and at the end of a certain amount of weeks, The people that just thought about working out had increased their muscle mass by 20%, and the people that actually went to work out had increased by 25%. So it's all here, and it's all in here, and it's all the chemicals you make in your body with your thoughts and your words.
So your mind is not detached from your body. Whatever you're thinking, it's becoming real. And that's not the message that the media are saying. It's the opposite message. The media is saying physical realm is not your mind. Physical realm, we control that. We're the experts. We know what chemicals you need and you don't need, and what's your health should be and what your habits should be, right? Your mind, we'll keep that busy and with distraction, with video games, with entertainment. That's been a long story, and we need to get out of it. That's what it's. We got to get out of that story. We got to let go of that entertainment. There's really more entertaining things becoming real. I think it's way more. I tell my kid, like, he likes Minecraft, and I tell him, son, we're gonna go down in the rainforest, and just like Minecraft, where you build your house and you farm your food and you construct your home and you do all kinds of fun stuff. I mean, but for real, I like the real game. That's what I tell my son. It's more fun. So here you are, Ingrid. You are the real game. I think people should come into contact with you if they want to play the real game. So that does a great show, I guess. We're on time. Should we end it?
So, yeah, it's time to end. And after my exciting evening, I haven't even begun to think about what we'll talk about next week.
There was a clue to that. You said, I think, a couple of things to what you wanted to continue with after this. You don't remember? I don't remember. Yeah, you kind of mentioned something.
I know, we'll think about it, and I'll share inspiration. Meanwhile, for my feeding time, we need to bump it up to, we need to meet at 6:30. We need to do this at 6:30, so we're done by 7:30, so I can feed after we meet.
Okay, so we're gonna change the time. Oh, that's a big announcement. So we're gonna change the time.
Yeah.
So to 6:30? 6 or 6?
Yeah, 6:30.
On Tuesdays.
But 6 would be better. 6 would be better because it
whatever
gives me
you
more
say.
time
I have no real problem with any time. The last time we chose to be a little more available for live viewers, have a little later time. But then there isn't that many live viewers, and there's a few recorded viewers, so those people don't mind whatever time we record this. So yeah, I was thinking, for your sake, for your sake, let's go on for whatever time's best for you. So 6 o'clock. Yeah. Tuesdays, 6 o'clock Central Standard Time. We wait for your presence. We hope you can be here, and we'll see you then next week, 6 o'clock.
Yeah, and I'll share with you if I have any inspiration about what we're gonna talk about.
And stay tuned to know what the subject will be. I'll be making a post about that.
Okay.
So see you soon.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We need to stop
We
the
gotta cut
live
it.
stream.
Cut
Ah.
it